The sense memory of going through that pile of bodies, looking for Polydorus, it really, really, truly came flooding back. That huge sense of disbelief, and that enormous welling of emotion. Doing it in a radio, just having half a day to record it, and understanding that really with the radio, you've got as much as anything, you've got a responsibility to the text, probably primarily, and probably more. Certainly, I think the performance is more restrained. It's a very different performance. We played this in the Swan Theatre, which is about a 600-seat, beautiful atrium space, and really one of the most beautiful spaces I've ever played in. All wood, with a thrust stage, one of the early thrust. Intensely beautiful experience to play there, and you can really just speak on the stage. You've got has to be a lot of support as well, but so audience on all sides and all above us, and because, as you would have gathered from the radio, so much of it is direct address. Right. But obviously, with the live audience, you're really seeking to eyeball individuals and up here and across there and back there and right here. So, and then you're on the train of that experience and that journey. So, in truth, the live experience is enormously emotional. I mean, not emotional to the point, obviously, where you can't get the words out. Clearly never the case, right. But that there are waves of it that you are surfing, and that's the desire. The desired thing is that you are present in that emotion to that degree. But like I said, just listen to it there. When I heard that, I felt like I was back on the stage, and so very specifically like I was back on the stage, not in the recording studio. So well, we all know. Yeah. All your audience are massive theatre fans, as are you, and we all know that. Oh gosh, it's ineffable, really, isn't it? And it's still, to anybody that isn't hooked on it, it can be hard to explain. Yeah. But I have to say, with Hecuba, genuinely, the overriding sense of it was of breath held. It really was an extraordinary level of concentration in the audience, and I could see really in the spill at least 4 rows deep, and you can see further back. I mean, because we're thrust, we're lit like that, so you can see the audience. Yeah, and also because we're looking in, we can see them really clearly. And so it was that extraordinary sense of the concentration, and because we keep changing, sometimes it's direct address. So often you're making appeals to the audience in a way. I mean, not begging them, but putting your side of the story, and then he's putting his side, and it's flipping so quickly.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Forgive me. I'm going to warn you, Rex. My style is I just go on and on.
You're fine. Well, I wanted to. I'll just chime in then. Marina's writing is so literary in this piece that like you're speaking each other's inner monologue, and you're speaking stage directions, and you have that sort of dual focus of you're being a storyteller, and then you're suddenly in dialogue in the scene, and that must have been a massive concentration effort to hold such a technique with the audience, with the scene partner, sometimes speaking the other partner's lines and inner thoughts as well. It was I read this first before I had heard the radio drama, and I just thought, oh, this is a fascinating take, even just in the script of how to retell this story. And so much of it is about who gets to retell their own story. But like, I was just curious about, what was that like to play that sort of that split focus?
Well, as with most performances, but maybe in particular with this performance, it was a tightrope. You start so high. I mean, as people just heard, so you start with the bodies of family members all around.
Yeah, it's such an
A
intense
messenger
thing
comes in
to
with
sustain.
Priam's head. It's in your lap. Your daughter-in-law comes in with her dead infant. It's just absolutely relentless. I love how she interferes with that. My women are putting perfume on me. Perfume. It's wonderful. But also Marina keeps a sense of humor incredibly. I mean, she keeps all of these things in play so that you're not it's a woman trying to figure out what her next move is going to be, and she's recounting this, and so you're doing a lot of investigation as to who you're recounting this for and why you're recounting it, and the retelling. And as you say, I mean, the simplest thing is to say that you are the advocate for your story, and then he becomes the advocate for his story, and so on, and all of the characters do. Gosh, it was such a huge performance. It's quite hard to, we practiced very hard. We had to really discover a language to be able to encompass all of those different strategies, all those different dramatic propositions. You had to be you really have to know a script backwards anyway, but let's triple that for this. So developing enormous facility. But a good part of the rehearsal was really trying to find the language of it. Are we looking at each other? Do you never look at the person? Do you make really strict rules? Or do you make it a little bit looser? Does it change from scene to scene? All of those questions. But in the end, I think we came up with a fairly, not a rigid structure, but with very strong rules as to how that would be. And then you have departures. The 10th scene is dialogue.
Yeah.
So after all of this reported speech, you go into dialogue. And then a very big question for us was how to handle. So Goretti, in the radio edition, we've got all of that sound of sex and so on. And
the sound
on the
design is
stage.
so fantastic throughout.
Sure. I mean, we obviously we didn't go for anything like that. We barely touched. But that was also quite extraordinary. So there was that line. I hope it made it into because this is an abridged version also.
Right,
the radio version is abridged. So particularly at the end, that's quite a blunt. After finding the body of Polydorus, there's quite a long sequence of letting go. And then he comes back on, Agamemnon, and he speaks some more. And then they're going away, then Polymesto, who is my son-in-law, who I've entrusted Polydorus with. So he's the guy who comes down from the hills with Polydorus and tries to get his own 2 boys back. And he comes on in our version, blinded. So, but in the traditional versions, Hecuba blinds him.
Yeah, that's such a, I love
for betraying, for giving up Polydorus. And so she's seen as, and so that whole wild dog barking on the beach is this idea. It's unfortunate that it's abridged in the radio version, because it's really essential in terms of the Greek story, which is that she is a barbarian, that she literally with her own hands takes out the eyes of this man. So in Marina's version, he came on blind, and Hecuba did absolutely go for him in the sense of how could you? But then he tells the story, which is that they didn't give a damn. They didn't give him back his 2 boys. He lost the boys anyway. And their death was just so, again, just so casual and appalling. And in the end, Cassandra tells the story of Hecuba taking him to her tent and bathing his wounds.
Oh wow, yeah.
And that so she's starting to leave off into some new place. So rather than exact revenge, they just abandon her. They leave her. They won't take this. She's kind of goes beyond the realm of the living, I think, and into quite a scary place, I'm sure, for the Greeks. So that beautiful thing at the end, she, lit a pyre for her last born, and she lay down. But you have a really very strong interim scene where you see this woman choosing I mean, in very, very broadly choosing forgiveness, but really choosing less forgiveness, tenderness. And as I say, she has unhooked her. Finally, her experience has unhooked her.
Yeah.
She's on the way out there. So
yeah, when I first read it, and I think I got to that small bit about or not small, but monumental moment when your character says there never was a Helen. And
yeah,
that was one of the first things that made me go, oh, this is a different version of this. Like,
yeah,
I was like, whoa. And I love the retelling of myths, but I love the remaking of myths as well, of like, oh, we're definitely, putting our own perspective on this. And I just wondered, with something as well known as, the Trojan War, the Iliad, the Odyssey types of work, do you find you have to work harder as an actor when the audience knows, like, oh, I think I know where this is going, and then you come across things like there never was a Helen?
right.
Like, what's the
Yeah, I suppose you have to
the
be.
approach to that?
But I suppose in those areas, you have to be super clear. It's just that's kind of ABC stuff as well, as super clear on a plot point anyway. And I suppose you might give that. You might just want to be really clarify that. But it's backed up. It's then it keeps going on. I love that you rolled in here smelling of mackerel, and she just let go, and it was a total lack of culture. But and at the same time, you don't labor any of that stuff. The idea is to move very quickly through it. There is a delight when you can hear an audience hearing that.
Yeah.
You can hear them. Oh, okay, yeah, and either with a little laugh or something like that, or again, our audience were so close that you could really feel their understanding of their understanding of the journey that they were on with us. Yeah, it's delicious.
And I imagine that was like a great twist for an RSC audience who's like, oh, we've seen this, and then there's no Helen.
And like I said, one of the biggest twists comes right at the end, which again, just radio being what it is, sadly that wasn't. So that's pretty daring. The sex.
Yeah.
Who would have seen that coming?
Exactly.
And there was such a fantastic laugh on I hope you like stretch marks. That was fantastic. In a night of not many laughs, that was a wonderful laugh.
Yeah,
we had a worked comedy math, 1, 2. So there were 2 possible laugh lines before that, and we sacrificed them. We kind of sat on them so that we got our laugh on stretch marks. Yeah. And I just love that. I just love that she knows what's going to happen. She can't believe it. She's also, she's almost out of her body, and yet she comes back into her body nearly for the last time. And just the playfulness that with Marina, that's always in play. I think it's the sense of humor is so key. Again, I think there was also, this wasn't during the sacrifice, there used to be a direct address to the audience about calling them out, Achaeans, Spartans, so on, talking to all the different Confederates.
Yeah.
So that was a very big aspect of the stage, was how present you were with the audience. And yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. And if folks listening haven't read the play, it's a great read too. Just to get more of the full text that Dervla was talking about. Someone just dropped a comment here that said, no matter how many times I encounter Hecuba, she both breaks my heart and strengthens it. I love this performance. It transported me. Thank you. So yes, and thank you, Patricia, for that comment.
Gosh, beautiful.
And yeah, it does play so well into radio, though, of just the strong narrative of this piece, the strong text of this play.
True.
Yeah.
It was very beautiful. Would you like me to describe any of the physical aspects of the theatre production?
Sure. If yeah, like
Just, I mean,
just
just
the
to set
general,
the
maybe just the
scene.
general scenic.
Yeah, it was, I mean, almost a mirrored floor.
Mm,
Extremely simple. I think the only piece of furniture or any kind of stage that we had was the throne, and there's all the play of him sitting on the throne. And I'm sitting on the throne right at the top of the thing. And after that, I think there might have been they might have brought the throne back into play in the sacrifice, and there was a very big bowl that something was being, a very kind of tar-like substance was being spilled from during the sacrifice.
yeah, I've seen production photos of that. It looked covering
Yeah,
somebody in one.
that's right. Yeah, and the woman who's in those photographs, she plays uh, which one of the girls was she? Cassandra. Cassandra.
Yeah.
Um, so but you know, we were very simply dressed as well. The guys were kind of bare from the waist up,
Yeah.
with, you know, kind of sash, so they were very warrior like in a very classic way, and it was very beautiful actually. Yeah, quite restrained.
Here's another question from an audience member. Charles asked, how much did the Euripides play influence your take on this? Was there much dramaturgy on you know, the original Greek work, or is it, you know, we're really telling Marina's version, so this is the one we're doing?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we did have a generous rehearsal time because it was the RSC, but I was actually, it's funny, I was just thinking about this the last couple of days. I was double jobbing. You know, you sit around 3 months, but then 3 buses come at the one time is always the way. So
it's your famine, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So I was double jobbing in Ireland on Druid Shakespeare, and we were doing Richard II, Henry IV, Part 1 and 2, and Henry V, and I was playing Henry IV. And at this stage, we were doing our last performances in Kilkenny. So for 2 of the weeks, I was only there partially, but then we still had another good 5 weeks. And, you know, the work was very intense. So possibly we might have, had I had full weeks for those first 2 weeks, we might have had a little bit more luxury of table reads of maybe 2 other versions of the Euripides. As it is, we didn't. But it was understood that we were familiar with it.
Yeah.
It was understood that we weren't coming in on day one going, so what's this all about? What's this war? You know?
Yeah.
So that was and I guess you would probably be on pretty first name terms with this and with many of the characters anyway. Marina would really have to speak to that, but obviously she would have read all the versions and sat and had a good think about it probably for a few years.
Yeah.
And then put pen to paper.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no time ever in a rehearsal process, right? I mean, like, what
Sure.
if you're listening, like, what I don't know what's standard sort of rehearsal process in the UK or in Ireland, but in the States, you know, for a regional production, it's, you know, usually 3 to 4 weeks rehearsal, and that's sometimes a longer. You know, you're lucky if you get a 4-week rehearsal and then tech, and then you're into previews, and wow. It's such a lightning time to do all the things that actors do. They're superhuman.
Yeah, you're not, sadly. I mean, I think that would be wonderful. Of course, we'd all fight to have more time. On this, it was quite generous, and the RSC do give a generous rehearsal time. Here, you might get, depending on the size of the project, but 5 is probably a maximum. We did have some good years there where it looked like, you know, there was money. Yeah. and we were starting to get into 6 weeks for Chekhov and so on. And you know yourself, you're really, every week that you can get enriches it. It's like leaving a stew for a day. But I think 3 or 4 weeks is actually verging on the criminal. What's the point? Instead of having 2 plays, let's have 1 play and give people a decent go at it.
Right.
Sure.
Well,
That's just tough talk.
Yeah, exactly. I meant to ask you earlier, where are you tuning in from? Are you in Ireland?
Dublin,
You're in Dublin. Okay, great. Yeah.
Dublin, yeah, Dublin,
Um,
Ireland.
very good. You know, I've been thinking about this just with, you know, we've produced Marina Carr plays before, as well as, you know, some of the big names in Irish theater like Inda Walsh or, you know, McPherson. But we also produce a lot of emerging writers.
What Marina plays have you done? What
We have,
Marina plays have you done?
oh, sure, we've done By the Bog of Cats, we've done Portia Coughlin, we've done Woman in Scarecrow, which I think was one of my favorites.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And done readings of more. But one thing I talk to with young and emerging both writers and as well as actors is so the difficulty of being pigeonholed in as Irish. And, you know, maybe this is particularly in the United States of like, if you're not writing a very Irish play, then it's hard to get produced. And, you know, both you and Marina have been able to, you know, break out of that sort of mold and, you know, play classical roles. And, you know, Marina's writing, you know, more than just, you know, Irish countryside plays. And
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, do you have thoughts or advice for younger artists of, you know, how do you break out of, how do you make a larger platform for yourself, if that makes sense?
Well, I mean, would have thought with you have very good examples of American playwrights with Annie Baker, for example, and who's that? It's just not going to come to me directly. The woman who wrote uh, the Simpsons about
Oh
you know
yeah,
the Simpsons.
Is Anne Washburn,
Yes,
the
yes, and I
Mr.
saw
Burns
an
Electric.
extraordinary play of hers in yes, a couple of years ago. Absolutely mind-blowing play featuring Trump and Comey. I've never seen anything like it, and I saw it in a preview, so and I knew a couple of the actors, and she was there, so that was such a thrill to meet her, and I probably made a complete show of myself, but that's what you're supposed to do, right? When
I
you
did the same thing. They, that there was a production here in DC, and she was there that night, and I saw that show,
yeah.
and we had drinks afterwards, and I was like sitting next to her, and I was like, I'm a fan.
Well, that's great.
Yeah,
But that was mind blowing. And Annie Baker's, I think the individual that the playwright that most of the world is most fascinated with. So if there was anybody listening, I would say that they're two incredible examples of artists that are following their own extraordinary lead. I mean, you can't. That's pretty indefinable. I can't really easily define what it is that they're doing. But it's reaching a big audience, and it's been given excellent productions. And I just love that they're. I sat watching that just gobsmacked and enthralled for every second of it. I couldn't get enough of it. And it could go on for 3 hours, 4 hours. That's all right. I'll sign up to that. So, you know, so I think that's very interesting that to think about those two women at the moment that are reaching audiences with this new form that they're trusting some kind of instinct, and
they're very different too from each other.
very different.
Yeah.
So I think that's really to be able to refer to two contemporary women that are rocking the whole world, really. And then when you think about, I mean, this is just all off the top of my head, but maybe they're in a line from someone like Edward Albee, who, you know, you've got Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but you've got Seascape, and you've got all those crazy plays that are, you know, kind of surreal.
Yeah.
And that didn't make total sense. And then you've got all the crazy French playwrights as well. So when you think about what the people that really move stuff on, they certainly didn't. They don't. I'm sure they all have their own worries and their own everything. But they embarked on an active imagination, and whatever you're doing, that's all you can do. But what you can't do is try to write into a niche. or try to, write a formula or have a look at it and figure it out and say, well, I'll try and aim it at, well, maybe you can. I'm not a writer, but I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can effectively do that.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of amazing inspiration right there that isn't cliched and that isn't you've got to, and if that gang won't put on your plays, then go find another gang who will.
Yeah.
Dream big.
Dream big. Yeah. And is that and that's even harder though as an actor, though, isn't it? I mean, like when you're not when you're waiting on someone to cast you.
Sure.
What was it like for you, maybe starting out, or maybe making those first international productions, or getting out of hometown type of feel? What was that sort of process like for you?
I got really lucky really quickly, I think. I do think I did. I had a very fortunate new voices were coming up and I was in the right place at the right time. And, I was determined to, I mean, I don't know how much of my own determination determined it, if you like. Yeah. I mean, I was ready to go. I was primed, I was just mad to have a go. And then I caught all sorts of lucky wins. There's no doubt about it. But what can I say? What was it like? It was fantastic. I had a great time. I didn't deny it anything either. I didn't hold back, and I don't hold back. Yeah. I don't know. You just work really hard, don't you? And try and squeeze all the good stuff out of it, and try to apply yourself to the problem of it, and just be very present. And I mean, I got to do stuff that I probably wouldn't have thought I would get to do. And there was a confluence. I was in England just in the late 90s when the Irish genuinely were having a real moment. Martin McDonagh was in 3 theatres at the one time. Marina had been on and I'd been with her at the Royal Court and so on. Mm. So I was very lucky, and others of us were very lucky that we could springboard at the time. But it was just a window. There was a window of opportunity, and there we were. But it's just the usual. There was still no money left at the end of the week, and there still isn't. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. We got to stay up late and meet interesting people. Right. So yeah.
That's great. How did you and Marina meet originally?
She was at college. Marina's I think she's 2 or 3 years older than me, and so she was at college. And I think I did meet her through some mutual friends, just in the canteen or something like that. So I was aware of her, and I saw her first couple of plays, Low in the Dark and Ululu, and they were completely on their own terms. They were just moon calves and all sorts of fantastic creatures, and I don't think anybody knew what they were, but they recognized the poetry, they recognized the beauty of them, and they were given productions, but small productions. And then the May was she had been really writing quite experimentally, and then I think with the May she nearly took it as a challenge. Now Marina would be the one obviously to speak to this, but she went, right, you want your family play, your well-made play, there you go. Yeah. And of course, and then everyone went, amazing, thank you so much, we love it.
Yeah, and I forgot we did that one too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I was in that very first one. That was her real breakthrough play, and I was in it then with lots of women that really became collaborators. So Alwyn Ware and Joan O'Hara, and people that she worked with, Stella McCusker, and that she then subsequently worked with numerous times. And then after that, not straight after, but a year and a half after that, was Push Coughlin. So once we started the professional relationship, we were really in there.
Yeah.
Really in the thick of it.
those relationships are so important, you know, they're so significant. Like when you meet your people, you know, and then you can just
Yeah,
create with them for years over time. You know, I've got a few of those artists that we just keep
yeah,
returning to. You develop that shorthand, and it's like the soup you said earlier, that metaphor. It just ages so well over time.
yeah, yeah. It does, and you develop a shorthand, and you're. There are so many different aspects just off the top of my head. You're better able to take criticism
Mm,
in the sense that it doesn't have to be circled around to come to the point. You can come to the point more quickly, and because of the level of trust, you can say, okay, that's something you're not happy with or you want to see more of. Okay, let's do that. So rather than it having to be a negotiation about people's feelings, all of that kind
right.
of thing. But obviously people's feelings are very important, and everything should be done with real respect and is. But at the same time, being able to cut more quickly to the chase,
Mm-hmm.
especially as we were just talking about there, with what is always a limited time,
Right.
and then to also know each other and be really playful. So to reach out and do something just, and they know, look, you're not straining, you're not looking for a final version here, but you're really looking to what happens if I go in deep over here, and so that there's the trust to do that, and that you're not always looking at, well, does all this add up to something that we can use in our final product.
Mm.
So, you know, of course that's great, um and and I would have my own understanding, say, of her work, and everybody would have a different, but for me there's always a wryness, and there's always a crucial sense of humor, and
Mm.
so I know I would pay special attention to that, or just take it for granted, or take for granted that has to be there, and so so that's woven through.
Yeah.
um
Well, if you know,
and you can kind of, you can make a very bold first move when you've done, what have we done now, four, maybe more, Anna Karenina marble. Uh,
oh yeah, Marble's great.
so it's five at least at this stage.
Yeah.
And oh, I think I can say that we're going to be doing her version of Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse.
Oh, great. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, quite
that's
literally,
fantastic.
they pushed on contracts there on Friday. So
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well,
it,
congrats.
yeah,
That's really
we
looking
were
forward to
supposed
that.
to do it last summer for Cork Midsummer Festival in
Uh-huh.
July, and of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so this time we're going to rehearse it here in Dublin, then we're going to do some tech, and then we're going to film it, because
Oh,
our
cool.
restrictions at the moment,
Yeah.
there's just, we certainly can't plan to have an audience in July, and
Right.
so they're planning that we're going to do a regular rehearsal of it, and then they're going to film it
Wow.
as
Yeah.
a stage play.
Right. Will that be, is that through the Druid then?
And no, it's would be Cork Midsummer. It's with the
Okay.
Hatch Theatre Company. There's a lot of co-producers,
Yeah.
but it's mostly the Everyman and Dun Leary putting their
Mm.
money in, and its director is Annabelle Common,
Yeah.
who is a really,
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, you're just talking about how you and Marina have worked so closely together. It makes me think of you know, Cillian Murphy and Enda Walsh have
mm-hmm.
that sort of same relationship of like a chief
Sure.
interpreter of their work, if you will, and so that's like maybe that's you for Marina's work, but
Well, Marina she's got a few of us on the boil.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's it's
I know
fantastic.
there are, yeah, Alwyn, sure, Alwyn and myself, yeah, and Unro would have done quite a lot of Marina's
Mhm.
work, and yeah, she's got, and then I think it's so important as well for a playwright to be able to say, you know what, I want I want to see new faces,
Yeah, sure.
and you know, I might be, I mean, it's true that I want to play them all. I mean, I really want to play in Woman and Scarecrow, and I think I would love to alternate those parts.
Mm. Mm.
And I've made that proposal to, but it hasn't turned anyone on yet.
Yeah.
But you know, it's only a matter of time, surely. But you know,
Right,
at the
right.
same
Well,
time,
what a amazing
but
day.
and then some of those parts as well have passed and won't come my way. Um,
Yeah.
and so, you know, there you
Yeah.
go.
I feel the same with a few Shakespeare roles. There's a few I
Oh,
wanted to get when I was younger, and I was like, I might be aging out of Mercutio and Hal and
yeah,
some of those. I
yeah.
I've played Tybalt twice now, but I'm like, come on, let me get at Mercutio.
And
uh,
you're young. You're young, Rex, right?
well, thank you. um, but yeah, well, what's next for you? We've got the lighthouse, and I know you just did the Approach Marco Rose piece. Are there plans to bring that to a live production eventually? I know it was interrupted, right?
Of of
Was it
which
Marco
one?
Rose, the
The
Approach?
approach. We did a live stream.
Right, the digital production of it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that was our third go at it. So
mm,
um, and maybe that might be over now.
right.
Yeah, that might be over. And to the lighthouse, like I said, we're going to film, and that's the next thing. So that'll start rehearsal in May.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what your situation is. Are you in big lockdown?
Not huge lockdown, but we are. It's definitely not as restrictive as Dublin and Ireland is. It probably should be, but
Are there performances going on? Music?
there are mostly digital. We are planning a live production that's going to be outdoors that will be socially distant. We're planning that like late May, early June.
Right.
But most companies in DC um, are planning on digital work. We have several digital pieces coming up.
So the theatres aren't open.
Yeah,
Jazz
yeah.
venues, anything like that. Music
No,
venues.
not many things are open right now, and it's still sort of a big question mark of what will be open later spring and summer. Just as the vaccine is being rolled out, people are still, the theaters aren't high on the list of
No,
of
no.
who gets the vaccine. So
Yeah.
so it's just hard to, as long as a pre-production time needs for any theater piece, it's sort of a safer bet to plan on digital right now.
Yeah.
Even if, something were to open up this summer, it'd be almost at this point too hard to plan on that.
Sure. Yeah. Same here.
Yeah, exactly. So we're leaning into some site-specific pieces. We're going to do a Deirdre Kinahan play, and that'll be outdoors, and then we'll have some other digital offerings as well, including our film festival, which I'll tell folks about in just a second. But Derva, thank you so much for chatting with
You're
us
very
today.
welcome.
It was such a great honor to meet you digitally, and the shame of these types of events is normally if you were here, we'd all be able to have a pint after or something.
No,
But,
no, no.
but now we just shut down our computers and go.
I mean, I'm having a glass of wine here because it's 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
Still
exactly. Yeah,
4 o'clock during the day there or something.
right.
So.
It's not quite 5 o'clock, but I'll catch up. But thank you again, and congrats on your performance in Hecuba. It's so powerful. It's so. Oh look.
Oh.
I'm gonna put this thing in timeout.
All right, that's in timeout.
Gorgeous.
Yes, that's Beckett, my 3-year-old who loves to say hi on Zoom meetings.
That's brilliant. I just saw a message there that's from a guy called Kevin. You're very welcome, Kevin. I'm delighted you enjoyed it.
Yes, echoing it. It's such a powerful performance, and thank you for this conversation. And we look forward to your next piece at the Lighthouse.
Yeah, to the Lighthouse. It's going to be. I don't know. I suppose because they're filming it, it might be a worldwide broadcast, and it's early July, I think, are the dates. So that's a new Marina Carr version of Virginia Woolf's big old classic.
Yeah,
and it's going to be beautiful video work and really, I think, really beautiful sound work and everything. So it's definitely going to be a piece of art.
Yeah,
I guarantee you.
Great. No, it sounds fantastic, and I'm so glad that Marina is exploring more adaptations, and she has such a distinct, unique voice, and to see her bring that to things like Hecuba, to Edward Albee, that's really exciting to think about. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
and just looking
Okay.
forward to your performance in that. And thanks again. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I want to drop one thing in the chat here before we take off, which is a trailer to our Capital Irish Film Festival, which is running March 4th through 14th. It's at the AFI Silver Spring here just outside of Washington, D.C. You can tune in from the comfort of your own home, catch these amazing contemporary Irish films that some include Arat and Wolfwalkers, which has been nominated for a Golden Globe. Hope you can catch them. Passes and tickets are available now on our website, solusnua.org. And thanks again to all the folks at RTE, Drama on One, Kevin Brew, and everyone else for the permissions to use this broadcast. And once again, to our esteemed guest, Dervla Crotty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.